Greetings, adventurers. We are gathered here today for session number 13. It belongs in a museum, a 5e Dungeons and Dragons Eberron game. I am your DM, Cthulhu, also known as Ralph. You can find me at Cthulhu on Twitter. And I'm going to throw it over to Alan to introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Big Al, the lawyer. I play Talion Tildavandi, the gnome with no home. Kind of dark, but we'll roll with it. And I will throw it over to Andy to introduce himself.
I'm Andy, at Blackfall Press, playing Gideon Blacklake, Carnathi mercenary for hire and general roamer across the 5 realms. And last but not least,
hello, I am Michael. You can find me on the Twitters at the RPG Academy, and I am playing a ghost who is a Warforged wizard. Very little knowledge of the world, lots of questions, and I'm currently pledging multiple fraternities at not Morgrave University? What's the university?
Morgrave.
Yeah, it is Morgrave.
Oh, it is Morgrave.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Knowing the school is a good thing you should do when you're pledging fraternities, I would assume.
Right. Well, Michael, you missed last session. We actually only played for about an hour or so. So to kind of recap that brief session, you all emerged from the depths under the city of Greywall, the Kairos, the Deep Doors, the ruins of the Dakani city that Greywall had been built up upon. You're still here in the nation, quote unquote, according to some, of Droem. A nation populated by monstrous humanoids and ruled over by the 3 hags known as the Daughters of Sorakel. You are here at the request of an intelligence agency, the neighboring kingdom of Breland, and you're looking into terrorist activities, trying to locate the central HQ, or the central leadership of a group known as the Fangs. That has seemingly been behind some plots, manipulating others through dreams to kind of create some chaos throughout Corvair. In the previous session, specifically, you all, like I said, emerged from the Deep Doors. You parted with a lot of the loot that you had gathered down there, the mandibles of some burrowing creatures and the teeth of the aberrant Dolgrim and Dolgump that you had fought. In exchange for a bit of coin, I know, a ghost, this is probably not so meaningful to you, but you can go ahead and note that your cut of the profits was 27 gold, 5 silver. And also, several interesting objects were looted, one of which the party thought you might be interested in as an orb of shielding, specifically the Zoriat marble. It can be used as a spell casting focus. It is an orb, essentially, and because of its link to the plane of madness, if you can use a reaction to reduce any psychic damage you take by 1d4, essentially.
Cool.
I think it's just a common magic item that requires attunement. You can look up Orb of Shielding. I think they just kind of held it out in your direction. Of more interest than those, perhaps, Alan, which is to say Talion, made special friends with a pair of living gloves.
yeah, that wasn't creepy at all.
It's a seemingly...
Nobody can tell. Nobody can tell.
Yeah, he rubbed concealer all over them to try and make them match his flesh tone. But with all of your loot and your freshly earned coin in hand, you met with Durga. She said that she had asked around about the potential suppliers of the terrorist organization known as the Fangs, and she told you to go to Little Greywall and inquire for Big Deal. You entered into a kobold nightclub known as Torch Scales, and found that the entity that answers to Big Deal is himself a kobold. So the 3 of you, Gideon, a ghost, and Azure, are kind of standing shoulder to shoulder, looming over what would be like a balcony, like a second-story balcony, but really only comes up to just over your waist height. All of you are kind of stooping, like Gandalf at Bag End, under some of the rafters here. But there is a crowd of kobolds, Michael, that has been suddenly incensed at the command of their leader, yipping out to them in Draconic, and everybody is tilting over tables and chairs, pulling daggers and slings. It seems that Gideon wasn't subtle in the way that he approached this conversation, but he also
I mean, without me here to keep him in check, he just likes to go off like on a wild tangent all the time. I mean, I'm surprised we're all still alive, really.
Yes.
It's not because I've been playing Mother Hen the entire time.
A Ghost, you've probably been a little bit distracted since you came in here. Looking about at this exact moment, you realize you don't see Talion. Talion actually turned himself invisible and snuck into this VIP area, unbeknownst to you. Right. But as all of these kobolds are preparing for combat, let's go ahead and roll for initiative.
Oh, I am not good at this.
I was telling Andy when we got started, I've redone my entire podcast studio setup, and this is the first time I've played since I've done that, and like nothing is convenient. I'm going to have to rearrange a little bit. So my apologies if I'm reaching and bending and twisting to do things. I also don't know how loud this is on the mics.
That's fine.
It comes up just a little bit.
Good Foley.
Okay. It sounds like it's really loud to me, but okay. All right.
Gideon, what did you get on your initiative?
A mighty 7.
Talion.
16.
A Ghost.
14.
We could just put Azure at the bottom of the order for the time being. Unless, Gideon, do you have her character sheet? Do you want to try and...
I don't have it handy,
That's
unfortunately,
fine.
so... Vanishes into the background, breathes some lightning, you know.
She does all the heavy lifting.
She's having her own adventure. We'll find out all about it on a bottle episode in the future.
Well, fortunately for her, she's the only one that speaks Draconic, so you all could kind of tell from the reaction what happened here. But she knows specifically that this big deal said to try not to harm her, so she might be the only one of you that survives.
Oh no, I'll take her out with me if I have to.
Hey, you're going to survive if you can't be seen and you don't take any action, so...
It's like when you're playing poker. If you don't never go all in, you can't lose, right?
That's right.
All right. Big Deal just got a natural 20 on his initiative, so he'll be starting us off here. Big Deal, true to his yapping, draconic utterances, places his clawed hands together. It places his two thumbs together, fans out his fingers, but aims the cone of his burning hands in such a way that that only Gideon and a Ghost are going to be scorched by these flames. He's also going to expend 2 sorcery points to make this a heightened spell. Actually, I guess he has to spend all 3 of his sorcery points to do that. So you guys both make your dexterity saves at disadvantage. Oh no! Actually,
remind me, if he's
of
casting in melee, I don't get a swing on him.
No, I mean I don't think there's the opportunity attacks aren't provoked.
Okay.
It's actually only one of you that gets disadvantage, so he's going to give that to Gideon.
Yeah, okay.
So a Ghost you can just roll with normal, and this is a dexterity saving throw.
Oh,
I got a 13.
16.
Wow, both of you succeed.
I will use my reaction to take 0 damage.
You pull up your shield and just turn the flames aside. They kind of glint off of your shield and cascade out into the center where all the tables and chairs and the swarm of kobolds is. but that is a ghost. You take, you succeed for half, so you take half damage here. Take 7 points of fire damage. And you can see he kind of continues to kind of scream out in his annoying chihuahua pitch. But he's going to remain in that VIP. So essentially, I'm not going to bother with the battle map because this is a kobold nightclub that was already small enough to begin with. The swarm of kobolds, there's basically kobolds all around you at any given moment, and they are going to be fought as a swarm similar to the Marvel bugbear that you all fought previously. Big deal is within melee of you, Andy, and you're not so constrained that that you have disadvantage on your attack rolls or anything like that. You have enough room to get a good swing in. But he throws this fire and then just kind of huddles down in his chair. Actually, he might just kind of like hop and try and interpose his chair between the lot of you as cover. But he seems to be calling out for everybody else to make short work of you.
At the risk of being meta, the look on Gideon's face right now is like Billy Butcher from The Boys. Eyes lit up.
Going next with another slightly higher initiative count than Talion is the swarm of kobolds. One sling stone comes careening through the air at a ghost. Does a 22 hit your armor class?
Yeah.
All right. And then Gideon, one of the kobolds scrambles up and goes to like stab at the back of your knee with a dagger. And he actually gets a 19
on the nose. Lucky.
Ooh, perfect. So Gideon, you take what would be 4 points of piercing damage.
Okay.
A ghost, you take 4 points of bludgeoning damage, and go ahead and roll a d4 for me. And let me know what number you roll.
1.
No additional effect. All right, perfect.
Yay!
You can see in this moment as utter chaos breaks out, a couple of other sling bullets just whiz through the air around you all, not like near enough to hit you or anything. But a ghost, you see one hit the wall nearby you, and it looks like a ceramic that shatters, and you can see like a green goo just kind of streaking down the wall. But it looked like that didn't hit you, so you don't have to learn what that was carrying.
Until later, anyway.
Talion, it is your go.
So I'm in the VIP section behind all these people, I guess, right?
Yeah, so there's enough of his entourage here that if you wanted to attack the swarm, I would still say you could. There are members of his crew here that are pulling daggers and such. Or if you wanted to target Big Deal himself, you could certainly do that. Sweet.
But what I really want to know is, did they leave any money out on tables or anything?
Make a perception check.
Ooh, that's a nat 20 for 23 total.
So the table here in the VIP was upended by his entourage, all kind of springing to their feet. It looks like they're maybe bracing it for cover, like to act as his shield against your companions. It looks like amidst the shattered, small amounts of shattered glass from tiny kobold glasses, you do see the glint of handfuls of copper coins, and then you see there's a few silver mixed in there too.
Oh, these guys are cheapskates. All right. Um. So I'm trying to decide. Like, am I isolated right now? Like, is it like the group is like right here between me and my people?
Um, Essentially, yes. So the VIP area was up like a short flight of stairs, and it's just like a balcony in the back corner of the establishment. Your companions are kind of standing like in the middle of the establishment, over like the sea of like freestanding tables. And then on the far side of the room, there's like a stage where there was a kobold singer. I would say, I mean, invisibly, it's a little bit easier for you to pick through the crowd. So if you wanted to move over to like where your companions are, you could. But you're probably 10 to 15 feet away from them. Maybe only about 10 feet away from them. It's a small area.
All right. So basically, I am separated, but it's so tiny, it's not really a big deal.
Right.
All right. So then I will cast Dissonant Whispers at Big Deal.
Big deal.
And that's a wisdom saving throw.
Oh, he's got a lot of that.
Ah, damn it.
No, he doesn't. He's got a mighty 9 wisdom.
I was about to say, surely he does not. But okay.
He got a total of 8 on that save.
Oh, good. He did not save then. So he is going to take 13 points of psychic damage and try to go as far away from me as possible. And I'm assuming that when I do that, I'm going to lose invisibility because I got to keep concentration. And I suspect that doing 2 things at once is going to ruin that.
So typically, you can maintain concentration until you cast another spell that requires concentration, but specifically with invisibility, if you attack a creature, then it does break the invisibility. So
yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm there, but he's like trying to get the hell away from me. So boom.
Yeah. Where were you standing, do you think, relative to him when you cast this? Were you?
I kind of think I was probably behind him. Like I'm probably.
Of course.
It probably almost sounds like a whisper. Like it literally sounds like dissonant whispers in his ear. He's like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah. So you step over the wreckage of the upturned tables and shattered glass. You look down and see the coins are nothing to be troubled about. You slip around behind him and you lean over into his vestigial kobold ear, and you whisper arcane words that do send him running. So he breaks from you. All of his crew turn around to kind of see what he's screaming about, so they're aware of your presence. And he runs up just all the way to the edge of the balcony, closer to Gideon.
So does that mean he's moving out of my reach?
Forced movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks.
Damn it.
I like where your head's at, but...
They killed all the fun from First Edition. I tell you what, no warlord, no forced movement.
No, yeah. I mean, no.
More concerned about staying alive than anything else. Like, if I can get rid of him fast, that's good, right? But otherwise...
No spike chain tripper, no Robilar's gambit, no, none of that. Okay, but you have dealt enough damage to him. He's up against the railing, basically at the VIP. He's still like looking back at you, so he doesn't see Gideon just kind of looming behind him. But you could see like a little bit of blood already just kind of like streaming down out of his ear, and he looks really shaken up. That was a substantial amount of damage. After Talion, so Talion, that was, I would say, I mean, you moved maybe about 10 feet or so and used an action. Did you have a bonus action or anything else you wanted to do?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So that'll bring us to a ghost.
Right. So a ghost just at first he thought we were going to a rave. Like, people start flipping tables. I think the disco ball's about to come down, but then stuff went sideways pretty quick. I'm a little bit singed, so I'm not happy about that. So I'm gonna hold out this nice new orb that I just recently acquired. I'm gonna hold it aloft, and then from it, there's gonna be sort of like a musical sound starts to emanate, and I'm casting sleep. So basically the sound of like you're trying to put a baby to sleep, the ding, ding, ding sort of sound is going to issue forth from it. I rolled and I got 24 points of hit points. Will go asleep.
All right. So that's about a half a dozen kobolds. Um, they don't have a ton of hit points themselves. So I will just take that off of the swarm's total here, and I will bring that down. But yeah, you raise that up. You take aim at a table of kobolds nearby, and they were all drawing daggers and barking insults at you. But hearing this kind of sonorous melody from your orb, although since it's like a Zoriat marble, it's probably like slightly warped and out of key. It's like a lullaby in a horror movie, dying music box style. But they all slump over the table and fall unconscious. The ones nearby like look at them and then look up at you and then like look at them. They're not sure like what you did, but they all kind of start scrambling about with their knives. So, did you have a bonus action or anything else you wanted to accomplish? Nope. All right. Perfect.
Other than, is there anywhere I can move to get like partial cover behind a flipped over table? Because I'm already like half dead. Like another couple attacks and I'm out of here.
Well, unfortunately, you're the biggest thing in here. Like there's very little. I would say you can.
I'm the biggest thing in here.
I'm a dwarven-sized warforged.
That's true. You know what? There has to be there's a couple of load-bearing pillars that run down the center of the structure here, so it's kind of somewhat difficult terrain, like picking through the swarm. Are you attempting to move gingerly, or do you care if you step on anyone at this point, or?
Well, no. If I can actually intentionally step on one of these sleeping kobolds, I will.
Okay.
But I mean, otherwise, I'll just want to get to cover.
So you just quickly go stomping through, and you lean up against one of the load-bearing pillars, or on the other side of it. It might give you a little bit of cover. I mean, Gideon, you glance over your shoulder and you realize like you can still see him. He's wider than the pillar by every dimension, but
I'll close my eyes. They can't see me.
Perfect. That brings us to Gideon.
All right. Am I in melee range with Big Deal or no?
He moved up to the railing because of the dissonant whispers.
Awesome.
So.
We are going to open up with a menacing attack. He didn't like my intimidate before. He'll like it now. That is 12 to hit.
Unfortunately, that is just a little short. He still has the wherewithal, maybe just feeling the whoosh of air coming to duck. And you...
Well, I tell you what, we are going to... we're going to spend our action surge and do it again.
Sure.
And that is... Come on, brain. 22.
Oh, that's a hit.
Okay, awesome. It's a lovely D8 and a D8 for this. And he will need to make a wisdom save. DC 14.
Alright, as established, he has a -1. That is a 12. So you said a 14?
Okay, that's not going to cut it.
Oof.
He's going to take 15 mighty bludgeoning damage. And he is frightened until the end of my next turn.
I'll tell you what, he is frightened, and he is also unconscious now.
Good.
Were you striking to kill, or are you striking to incapacitate?
I probably need to keep him alive, if for no other reason than information, so
okay.
I won't kill him. But I figure as he's attempting to run away from the psychic whispers, I just literally take the bell of the shield and just crack him across the back of the head.
Perfect. So the swarm is disheartened by their leader's sudden apparent demise.
If I have movement,
Sure.
I'm gonna pick him up and just throw him over my shoulder.
All right, easy enough. Drop the die. So between the swarm's demoralization and Azure breathing a gout of dragon's breath, They take a small bit of damage from that, so let's see here. You can see a couple of the kobolds nearest the exit see Big Deal get thrown over your shoulder, and they think that the jig is up, so they kind of start streaming out the exit. A few of his more loyal friends are sticking nearby. A few, several dozen. So there's still like a whole clan of kobolds chittering and slinging stones at you. But you have reduced the horde's number a bit here. That brings us back to the top of the order with Big Deal. I'll say that he's stable. No need to make a death save. Since you were aiming to incapacitate, not kill. So that brings us to the kobolds. Alright. Gideon, a sling bullet comes streaking at you. Oh, they have advantage, and the best is only a 13, so it's going to be a miss. Talion, one of the kobolds in the VIP, leaps over some of the upturned furniture and comes at you dagger first. Oh, that's a natural 20.
Those missed. Didn't we tell you? It's a new rule.
Go ahead and take...
DMs only.
It's only D4s. It's 5 points of damage.
Yeah.
2D4 plus 2.
I can handle that.
Because the sling bullet missed, unfortunately, no other fun is to be had here.
Hey, can I retroactively tell you that I'm holding my Rod of Retribution and fucking just lightning this little bastard?
Go for it. I assume you always have it. That's the point of having it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of assume it too, but then I'm like, yeah, I don't really say it, so I should probably ask.
No.
All right.
Give me that
He needs to make a DC 13 dexterity save.
Dexterity is what they're good at, but I rolled a 2, so that's a total of 4.
Excellent. That's definitely a failure, right? So let's see how much damage we got here. Nope. Not that. Only 4 points damage.
Well, that's enough to incapacitate the one that struck you. So he sinks his dagger into your flesh, and you can see he smiles. He's missing a couple of his small fangs, but in that moment, he immediately seizes up and then just falls back off of you, pulling the dagger out in the process. So probably that might be the reason you took 5 damage, but nonetheless dispatched. A couple of them seeing this happen, seeing this kobold fall after stabbing you, they begin to kind of flee the VIP section. So there's still like a handful up where you are, but some of the more cowardly ones are running.
Excellent.
After all of those kobolds goes Talion.
Let's see here. The one that shot the little missile at Gideon, I'm going to cast Vicious Mockery in his direction. I'm going to say, "You little kobold, did you see what I did to your boss? Ha! You can't even hit this big old target in front of you. You're blind as a bat."
So you move over to the railing of the balcony. You look over a sea of kobolds all just like swarming. You pick the one you think is the one, and you scream this. All right. Is that a wisdom save?
Yes, it is.
That is a 13 on the dice.
Oh, that's right there. It's a 13 wisdom save.
Actually, hold on. Wisdom for the swarm is -2, so that's an 11 total. So hey, look at that.
Right. But
1d4.
It's not a lot of damage, though. It's like 1 point of damage. Like, literally 1 point of damage. So.
Oh, man. If only you had done that to a ghost, he could have used his new orb to... All right. Nonetheless, good turn. You felled one. And that one, we'll say the next attack that the swarm takes will have disadvantage because of your Vicious Mockery. So that's perfect. After Talion, we have a ghost. A ghost, you see like a couple of lines of kobolds streaming past you, running for the exit, and you see even more than those still apparently combat ready. But it looks like the resolve is weakening.
I'm going to focus on the ones that are still trying to fight.
Sure.
So I'm actually going to run out of cover towards them, jump in the air, like slow-mo, the orb in my hand, land as I slam the orb on the ground, casting thunder waves. It'll be like a sound, and just I'm going to try to, like, you know, a Sauron at the beginning of Lord of the Rings is like, and then, like, everybody flies out everywhere.
Yeah, good reference. I'm with it.
So you have to make saving throws.
Oh, no.
Or however many you feel that would hit. Constitution.
Let's just say because of the density of them, I'll just make a Constitution saving throw at disadvantage for the swarm, basically. So 8 minus 1 is 7. That's going to be a failure.
All right, so that is 13 points of damage, and they go flying 10 feet backwards.
Sorry, math. Okay. So 3 kobolds get caught up by this concussive force and thrown up onto the stage, kind of upending the drum kit there. So you hear like boom. Yeah, exactly. The kobold singer, who had been kind of crooning as you come in, she throws down her megaphone, her speaking horn, basically, and scrambles out of there.
I thought you had a lovely singing voice.
She like pokes her head back around the curtain and like blows a kiss your direction before disappearing. Perfect. All right. Did you have any? So did you have another bonus action or anything else to take?
No, I'm good.
All right.
I'll look at them menacingly.
All right. That brings us to Gideon. Gideon.
All right. At this point, like, I'm full on owning the I'm tired of this, just get away from me. So, you know, with their leader like unconscious over my shoulder, I'm just gonna wade in to the mass of kobolds and just I'm a menacing attack again. Just try to scare as many of them off. And, you know, if some get in the way of my hammer, so be it. If we're gonna evoke the start of Fellowship of the Ring, this is the actual hammer coming down and like smashing. That nice. 26.
That's more than double.
24. Sorry, my bad.
That's exactly double their AC.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
That's. Come on, math. That's a D10. That's not a D8. That is a mighty 10 damage, and again, a wisdom save to avoid fright.
It's cocked. 15 minus 2 is 13.
That is not going to cut it. 14 is the magic number.
If this were 3.5, I would say they are more than frightened. We would get into the higher conditions of frightened at this point. But essentially, by the time Azure is flinging a firebolt at a few more of them, the crowd here has almost completely thinned out. Frightened by your hammer blow, many of them, maybe as many as half of the swarm that kind of started out fighting you all, either lying unconscious or dead or sleeping on the floor. You start to see less daggers and no sling bullets in the air, and you see nothing but a sea of fleeing kobolds.
With whatever movement I have left, I'm going to kind of cover the remainder of our group and say, it's time to go.
So at that moment, the ogre, Dorman, you can see he kind of slowly like leans his head in. It looks like he's too large, like over twice as large, too big to fit into here. But he leans in, kind of surveying the chaos. He looks at the lot of you, and since he's only got his head through the door, you can't see his shoulders, but he just gives the general expression of like a shoulder shrug, and then you see him draw his head back. By the time you all make your exit from this place, you could see him. He's lumbering with his sack of loaves of bread over his shoulder, and he's turning the corner of the alleyway, opposite the direction you all came from. So it looks like he's.
If I could have, I would have wanted to grab that megaphone speaking horn thing on my way out because that sounds fun.
Yeah.
I like to think I grabbed like 5 coppers.
Everything else.
You know.
Yeah.
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 I, of course, have the only, like, actual target that we came in with.
Well, Gideon, you called for the tactical retreat. Your companions seem to scramble about and pick up a few loose ends, but they follow you shortly. I imagine, Talion, you can also pick up a handful of coppers, let's say 6 copper, and then there's the airplane bottle liquor that was like that passed for top shelf in here. You think? So you might scoop that up too, or take a swig of it. It looks like it's still half full, or half
Actual
empty.
fireball whiskey.
But the rest of you follow Gideon's egress. The ogre Dorman doesn't seem to be interested in pursuing this matter with you all. A ghost, to re-describe where you are now, you're in a section of the city known as Little Grey Wall. And I was thinking about this earlier. It's kind of like that scene in Zootopia when she goes to where like the little critters are. Zootopia? No? Okay.
I've never watched it. I hear it's wonderful.
It is wonderful. You should
It's
watch
clever.
it.
Well, that is to say, like, Gideon is a little bit taller than you, so he can definitely see over all the roofs and everything of all these buildings, and you can for the most part as well.
If a ghost is dwarf height, I'm probably 2 feet taller than him.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But so you had seen on your way in a lot of goblins and kobolds and creatures of the slightly smaller persuasions throughout here. This was actually located in kind of like a rocky, like a small pile of rocks in a part of the city here. But Gideon, what's your plan? Where are you taking this creature?
Big Deal is still unconscious.
Indeed.
Talion, I don't suppose you're familiar with the old trope of good watch, bad watch.
What? I'm like really distracted by these little tiny houses because I've never been this big before. I'm like, what? I'm sorry. What'd you say, Gideon?
Are you familiar with the idiom of good watch, bad watch?
Oh, let's see here. No.
I need you to be diplomatic.
Oh. I am diplomatic as can be. Yeah.
Because I've established myself as not.
Call me diplomatic. You do realize that I'm the guy that scared that guy into you to knock him out, though.
I'm aware. I'm also aware that he probably doesn't know that. And
Fair
he
enough.
is aware that I beat him unconscious with my shield.
That's a very good point.
Let's
To
go
your
find
point, I agree.
Let's go find a large wall.
Oh, I like large walls. Let's do it.
So as you move back towards the Calabas, the buildings tend to get more appropriately sized for the majority of citizens. So kind
funny
of,
how you keep that. Appropriately sized.
I mean, yeah. And maybe I'm being, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm being
I just want to go
medium.
full Godzilla and start kicking things. And I got that megaphone to start making Godzilla noises.
I'm being
I will refrain, however.
medium-sized normative, I guess. But so you find an alley, let's say, right on the periphery of Little Grey Wall and the Calabas. Striding down the street with an unconscious kobold over your shoulder, it is relatively late in the evening. and the kobolds in these neighborhoods, you think you recognize maybe a few of them as some of those that had scurried out of the building. So nobody really raises an objection. You get a couple of like sidelong glances, but nobody is brave enough to speak up to you. So you find a secluded spot. This alleyway seems pretty desolate.
If there's a trough of water or the like, I'm gonna keep one hand gauntleted around. I don't know. Can I palm his chest? Is he that little?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Like just grabbed.
Yeah.
Other hand hammer. Dunk him in the trough.
Yeah.
Hold him up against the wall.
There's a barrel of rainwater that collects runoff from some of the gutters nearby. You dunk him, you pull him up, and he's immediately gasping and coughing for breath. You pin him against the stonework. He blinks groggily, and then as he kind of takes the lot of you in, his eyes widen. And he's like, he just like looks at you and he's like, you want to know about the fangs? I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Let's start with where.
I would say that the way that you have him pinned, like his arms, he can't really like reach his pockets or whatever. But he kind of like pats at his coat pocket, and he says, "I have a map. I have a map here. I give it to the caravans that are going there."
I literally slide him down the wall, and allow one of my shorter companions to reach in and pull out the map.
All right, I pull out the map.
So
and my living gloves are like, what?
Yeah, it's you. I think you actually struggle a little bit to unfold it. You're still getting used to your relationship with these gloves.
Yeah.
So it feels like a little clumsy, but
fumbling around and stuff. Definitely.
Fumbling around for a split second, but then like suddenly you feel like they almost have like a little mind of their own, and so like while the first second is awkward, you immediately like unfold it. Then you fold it back up and turn it into like one of those cootie catchers or whatever. And then you unfold it again. No. The map is it's tiny. I mean, like, it's probably like the size of a Post-it note, essentially. But you can see that, it was drawn by a proportionately tiny hand, and it doesn't look that bad, although like the ink is running a little bit because it just got soaked in rainwater. But a big deal.
Are blowing on it. I'm trying to.
Could you just copy it?
You're gonna lose his scale. You're not a cartographer.
I mean, I do have. I can copy it, but not out here. I've got ink and stuff. I've got it at our hotel.
Right,
but
let's make sure.
You want to take him there? We can take him there. I mean, he's a good guy, right? You're a good guy, right? Big guy? Yeah. Call him Big Guy instead of Big whatever his name was.
He kind of starts to stammer, and he just kind of trips over himself as he kind of starts spilling everything he knows. But before we get into that, Alan, you're looking at the map. Go ahead and give me an investigation check. Or a ghost, if you're taking an interest in the map, you can roll on this too. But
I wanted to be taking a short rest while this was going on, so
sure.
I was actually not participating because I need to get some hit points back.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Azure is leaned against the far wall, and you're just sitting there in the gutter, like taking a breather. She's like patting you on the shoulder.
That's a 19.
Okay. So the majority of the features in this map are drawn in a black ink, and you can see, even from your rough geographical knowledge of Drome, that this depicts the Grey Wall Mountains near to the east where you are, and the city of Grey Wall. It shows a black line that runs from Grey Wall to a spot with like some little scratches on it that you think these labels are written in Draconic, but you interpret that to be the Great Crag, the capital of Drome. You could see a red line drawn along this trade road that goes a short distance outside the city and then hooks north, kind of at a slight diagonal, like northwest into a kind of desolate area. And then there's like a few like little, you don't know if they're like artistic flourishes or actual landmarks, but like a small copse of trees with like some birds circling over it, like a little castle-looking shape off to the west of this red line, or the east of this red line. And it goes all the way up to an X that's also marked in red. It's like a short distance northeast of the Great Crag, seemingly in the middle of nowhere, aside from these other little like flourishes of landmarks drawn in here. But as you're looking that over, or did you have any questions about that?
Well, I was just going to ask if it was simple, not simple, but not too complex. Like, is it simple? Is it simple enough that I could memorize it?
Yeah, you think so. There's like where the red line follows the road. It stops following the road at like this little black smudge, and you're not sure what that smudge represents, but that seems like the part where the red line diverts from the trade road. But I mean, yeah, you can memorize most of the details of that.
Sweet.
Big
so
deal.
I'm gonna put it to memory real quick. I'm going to slide it back in his pocket. I'm going to take that opportunity to try and see if he has anything else in his pocket worth taking.
All right. And you had time before you guys went to torch scales. So are you attuned? You're wearing the gloves. You're attuned to them now, I imagine.
I am. I was looking at them actually. It's interesting that you talk about the gloves. I mean, right? I was doing like the research after, and you know, I had a lot of options, but from what I gather, like the type of character I am and the bonuses I get, it really wouldn't affect my sleight of hand, which is already like maxed out essentially. So I was thinking about making it basically having it as a what's the word? As a viol. I have a viol. I have a a viol, and I just wanted it to like make me a better viol player. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it makes sense in my head. Like I got these things thinking that were going to make me better at something, and ironically they made me better at something that I totally didn't care that they made me better at, and that was playing the viol.
Yeah, so you already had expertise in sleight of hand then.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm already an expert.
You taught these gloves a few things.
That's right.
All right, perfect. Well,
that's like whenever talking about me with the map, I like to think that when I was unfolding the map, it was almost like it was the hands were trying to play the viol, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" But in my head, I was like, "Oh, I know what this is. This is my instrument. My instrument's back at the hotel." But yes, yeah.
Weird. All right, I dig it. He is helpless. I mean, you could roll sleight of hand with advantage. Basically, you would just be, at that point, checking for anything hidden. Like, I mean, you could empty his pockets, no problem. But if you're just patting him down to make sure that he's not concealing anything not in, like, a normal pocket, go ahead and you can make that check and just take advantage on top of everything.
Okay.
So, let's see. Well,
it's a 16 with advantage.
Oh, okay, perfect. What would he have on him? That's a good one. You find like a small smattering of coins. You find the map that you deposited back in his pocket. He has. I mean, aside from that, he doesn't actually seem to be carrying much of anything.
That's cool. That's cool.
I
was just like, if there was something worth grabbing, and like basically not letting him know that I grabbed it, I was gonna do it. But if it's just like that, I'm just gonna I'm gonna put it back, and then I'm gonna flip one of his coins, and then I'm gonna take that coin and put it back in his pocket and tap it like good boy.
So he begins to kind of to spew out some information. He tells you in short order that a caravan of his runs monthly to the crag, and every month a wagon or two turn north off of the trade road and make for the Fang's camp. And that jives with the depiction you saw on the map there, Italian. He actually, yeah. I mean, he goes that far, and then he kind of he stops and looks at you all. He's hoping maybe that's enough to get him off the hook.
No.
He didn't say that.
I know. But I'll blatantly ask, who runs things there?
I met with a snake-haired woman. Her name Zarla. Several months ago, when we first made arrangements, and then he shrugs. She gave me money. She promised me steady business.
How do they feel about the daughters of Sora Cal?
You can see he was frightened of you, but he tries, even though restrained as he is, to kind of shrink even more as you bring up their names. You won't tell them anything about this. You don't know them, do you? The daughters. They don't.
Depends.
Ah.
That depends. What is Zarla's dealings with them?
For my part, I put a few coins in the pockets of the guards on the western gate to overlook the problems with my math on my cargo manifests. They think I don't count so good, or maybe they think I'm shorting the daughters on their tribute. But regardless, this is not... The daughters don't get a cut of what goes to the Fangs. The daughters, they need not know I'm involved in this. He's like nervous, and he's like, tribute evasion, very serious crime.
So I imagine the daughters would be very unhappy if they found out that someone was shorting them.
The daughters need not find out, friend. I'll give you whatever you want. If you're looking for the Fangs, I've told you where to find them. I could tell you everything I know about them, but we leave.
Keep talking. How many?
Their shipments consist of, and he just kind of rattles off an accounting of food, a couple barrels of water, a couple of kegs of ale, a bottle of wine, some oil, some rope. He's listing out kind of specific quantities. A ghost, you've not completed a short rest, but I mean you're within earshot of all this.
Okay.
You can make an investigation check for me as he's kind of listing all of this out. He says, not a lot of supplies.
16, please.
Perfect. A ghost, you think with what he's describing, assuming that these are biological or organic life forms, not like, if they don't have an army of undead or warforged or anything like that, just kind of based on the amount of food that he's listing in the barrels of water and things. I mean, you think that this band can't be more than like a dozen individuals. And like he says not many. He tells you he only met Zarla.
I don't know that I would mention that now. It probably will come up after. I would certainly assume that, again, all my time walking around the Cannith facility, there are probably ledgers of food and that kind of thing. So I would be well equipped to decipher that.
Yeah, you've been tracking how much Gideon eats and sleeps. you have charts.
I was going to call on my mercenary background and say, okay, I've been in enough war camps and the like to know provisioning. You know, if he's describing that, what, you know, how many people is he provisioning?
Yeah, I mean, with your soldier background, I mean, like, if they were on starvation rations, like maybe 15, 18 people, but like comfortably, you know, maybe 8 to 12. Not many.
Okay. I'll ask him, is she the only snake hair or are there others?
No other snake hair.
Anyone else of note?
Well, sometimes I have sleepy vision. Dream. That's the word in your language. I dream of an old woman. She comes to me and tells me what they need delivered out there in the Badlands, and I do my best to oblige. Not sure how they do that, but it seems like big magic to me. If I don't have one of those dreams, I just send the usual.
What have they asked for that's special?
Hard to find. Gemstones. The reddish orange, amber. They want in any quantities. Small ones, and he like puts his claws close together. He says even ones ground up already.
I'm still listening. Could I make like an Arcana check?
Yep,
See
absolutely.
if that matches any sort of spell components I'd be familiar with? Not great. A 9.
A 9. It does sound familiar. You kind of start puzzling over it for a moment. You have a keen mind, so I think at this point you're also digging through your memories. But because you rolled a 9, it might just take 1 second for you to get back to that point in your mind palace.
Sure,
Yeah.
Buffering.
So we know where, we know the leader, we know relatively how many. I'll ask him, has he shipped weapons to them?
He would shake his head. Whetstones, fletching, chicken feathers and shafts of wood and such. But I guess they have all the weapons they need already. So at this point, a ghost, you recall the burnt sigil that you saw in the book in the library at Kornberg was like a serpentine S shape that looked like an arcane scorch mark. That was an amber color. You believe that amber is used probably in the manufacture of that spell, whatever it is specifically.
Okay. I'll continue to file that away for later.
So we know where, we know who, we know relatively what, and we know that they're not affiliated with Sorakel. Is there anything else that we're missing?
I don't know that a ghost will be part of this, but if we could get sort of a routine of like how often the shipments are scheduled, we could maybe infiltrate the next one.
I think we'll stand out like a sore thumb if we did that. Human, Warforged, gnome.
We put you in the wagon or the cart, you know.
No.
We could do the prisoner thing. We couldn't put you in handcuffs. That always works.
Chewy.
No, I'm figuring catch them off guard completely. I mean, they don't know we're coming. We have the element of surprise completely.
Ambush.
Mm-hmm. Start a fire in the camp. Get them panicked. Take out the Medusa before we can before she actually does any damage.
So, Talion, with your study of the map, the way that they took specifically was to kind of obfuscate where the supplies were going. So basically he was saying he was bribing the guards on this side when the caravans would leave this city so that they would overlook the fact that he was sending out 7 carts instead of 5, basically. Those 2 would ride with the majority of the caravan for, judging from the scale of the map, maybe about 2 days or so, and then they turned north and went off towards the camp. You imagine they must have had some sort of schedule to meet back up and file back into the city together or something along those lines. But if you follow the trade road and follow this route specifically, it might add a couple of days to the travel. It's just the way that the caravans had to take the road. If you just want to cut clear across the Badlands, basically, you can maybe shave 2 days off. You think it's the difference between like a 6-day journey or an 8-day journey. Piecing together from what you saw on the map and what his story is here.
I gotta say that out loud because I don't want him to know that we're considering all those options.
You and a ghost just keep like having these epiphanies and like looking at each other and nodding. When you get back to the honeycomb hideout, you guys are gonna have a big debrief.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to. I'm going to cast a message to Gideon. And I'm going to give him that information, but it will be so low because I cast a message that only he can hear it.
Sure, so you hold up your wire. Yeah, perfect. Alright, Gideon, you hear the faint whispering of your gnomish friend. So yeah.
I very obviously in front of Big Deal look at Talion and nod and smile, and then turn back to Big Deal.
I'd start rubbing my eyes okay, that was not too obvious. Yeah, sure.
He has no idea what I'm nodding about. He just thinks that you're creepy now.
He ain't the only one.
If the shoe fits.
And yes.
The shoe does fit, so.
Do we need anything more out of him? I'm pretty sure we have some pretty solid information at this point.
I don't think so. I think it sounds like we have enough to work on. We just need to make a decision on how we want to approach it.
Well, here's the thing. So, we had 3 goals that were set before us by the Breelish Intelligence Agency, right?
All right.
Determine whether the Fangs were involved with the leadership in Draw, which we've proven is no. The exact location of their headquarters, which we now have, and to disrupt the Fangs operation with that evidence. We've completed the first 2. Do we want to go ahead with number 3? I'm perfectly okay doing the wet work at this point, but
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
Big
sure
Deal
Clement
is
Moregrave has taught
squirming.
me that extra credit is often looked upon, favorably. So
I'm good with the wet work, but like a ghost, I really would like a nice long rest. Before we
okay.
get
So
going.
my thought was go back to the Fjarlan enclave where we were staying. Have you send a message to our handler with the information that we've collected. That way, we have record that we've completed 2 of the 3 parts, which is what they asked us to do. And in that message, say we are, moving on this encampment. Expect update in 2 weeks.
Basically, here's what we got, and this is what we're doing. And if you want to stop us, you better haul ass down here or get a message back faster than we can leave because we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works for me.
And then take the night, leave early the next morning.
Works for me.
Big Deal has gotten pretty nervous at this point when you mentioned the concept of a wet work and with the concept of basically getting your hands dirty. He squirms under your grasp, thinking that maybe you're going to take your warhammer against his head. But he.
I think we should forcefully or unforcefully, either way, take him back to the hotel. I don't want him running around telling who knows what what we've done tonight.
I don't think. Well, one, there's no way that's going to be able to cover up. Oh, a gigantic human, a warforged, and a gnome broke into the all-kobold bar and smashed up the place.
Right, but if we show up at the hotel and he's with us as friends, then maybe the story's changed and it's a little bit different floating around.
I think our good friend Big Deal has come to an understanding that the daughters of Sorakel are not to be crossed.
He nods.
And that it would be...
I like to think that this whole conversation is happening in front of him.
And that it would be a great disappointment for him if they were to hear that he was smuggling non-tributed goods to thieves from their purview.
He kind of clears his throat, nervously trying to get your attention, perhaps. And he says, "You're going after them. You going after the Fangs?"
There's some dentistry what needs done. I told you that earlier.
He shakes his head and he says, "You no tell the Fangs I snitch. You no tell the Squid Face or the daughters anything about this. My next caravan was supposed to leave in 3 days' time. Maybe I don't have to send supplies."
Maybe you keep those supplies and send your tribute like a good boy.
Is the supplies, have they, like caskets that are big enough for us to hide in?
He described barrels. You could easily fit inside of a barrel.
Are you planning on riding in a barrel for 6 days?
Yeah, good point. No, I'm not. All right, carry on.
It's like,
okay, think about this though. They're going to get supplies. Maybe we spike the ever-living shit out of like their water, get them all wasted on like peyote, and then attack.
or we don't bring the supplies, wait 4 days, and for them to start starving.
And then we send them the the good stuff.
No, we don't have to take it at all.
Oh, I'm confused about the plan.
We cut
Okay.
their supply line entirely. We wait a few days for them to start running out of food, get at each other's throats, and then as they're starving, assault the camp.
But if the lady who can speak in dreams contacts Big Deal, being like,
Big Deal
"Hey,
begins
dude, where are
pointing at a
you?"
ghost.
There might be like a little two-way communication, and they're like, "Oh yeah, these 4 doofuses know all about you, and they told me not to, so that might give up the plan."
She get mad.
I am concerned about that. Something to that effect. Not that exact thing, but something to that effect.
All Big Deal has to say is, it's already been sent.
But again,
I don't know what happened.
if it's mind to mind, though, he may not be able to lie. In that case, it may be like, just thoughts that come out. Though we could always kill him, and then that solves that problem. And I do say that out loud.
He starts. He was pointing at you and nodding before, but he immediately pivots into
Yeah, no.
No, I think our little friend will be cooperative.
Well, on purpose, yes. But again, if she can speak mind to mind, I don't think he'll have the ability to lie. It'll just be like what he knows comes out.
Even then, by the time that she would send such a message, the damage will have already been done. If she sends it 2 days afterwards, that's 48 hours that they've gone without eating.
Yeah, but I also I'm going to circle back around to the idea of using their arrangement against them. I mean, our good friend here, and I pat his shoulder, like I'm buddies with him now, right? So our good friend here, he's got this whole arrangement where they send tribute and this, that, and the other. I mean, look, we could give him, he could keep that tribute, like he could send it, and then he could send the poison, right? Like we're talking about, and then we could give him the tribute back. It's like he's making free money.
How many, I'll straight up ask, how many kobolds or how many other persons would take this tribute, like physically?
He shakes his head and he says, kobolds, proud, wonderful people, not so good for lifting and carrying. For these caravans, I employ, and he seems kind of proud of himself, like straightens up a little bit, orcs, gnolls, a few kobolds to keep an eye on operations, but bigger, stronger folk.
How many total?
5 carts, maybe 2 or 3 to a cart, typically. Whole caravan. Extra
Don't like
guards.
that. I'm not trekking with 15 additional goblinoids who have no idea that we're on a wet work mission for a foreign government.
Big Deal. He kind of like holds up his claws. You can see he thinks for a moment and he goes, "I have a suggestion to you all. Welcome here in Greywall. Friends now, friends all of us. But
Friends, I slap him on the back.
like he tenses up, and then if you all wanted to leave tomorrow, I give you a cart and a horse. You take cart and horse. I fill out the declarations. You all exit the gate. If you get to Fang Encampment, maybe they think I'm early. I've been early before. Not early often. But you take cart, you go. If you die, then the Fangs not know it's my cart. If you come back, leave the cart by the roadside. My people will get it next time they're out. Maybe knock a wheel off or something so nobody else takes it, but then you gone. Not that I want you gone, but you gone. Fang's gone. Big Deal. He maybe moves, starts a new operation. Everybody happy. Just a thought.
Friends! Slapping me.
I don't mind. I don't mind the idea of getting a cart simply for ease of travel, but I really don't think trying to sneak a caravan worth of, or even multiple carts worth of goods into a camp full of non-humanoids is going to go over well at all.
I mean, but it could be fun. But I do also like the idea again of just like poisoning the water. You know, even if it's not like a hallucinogen, like just put straight poison in it. Let them all get there, start drinking and eating, and then they're all half dead before we show up.
Yeah, but how are we going to get that into their camp?
Well, we just wait
in a big enough quantity.
We just wait for big deals next thing, and then we poison everything before he takes it.
Because we're friends, right? Big deal? Smack.
Yeah.
So, doing that, he said his next caravan was going to leave in 3 days. The only problem with that is it's 3 days till it leaves. I mean, you can maybe try and lean on him to move that up. But if it takes his caravan 8 days to reach that camp, I mean, you're looking at being in Greywall for another 10 days or so. I mean...
Well, we would be behind the caravan. Like, we'd follow like a day behind. Yeah, but
that's even longer. So... we're looking 8 days there, 6-ish days back, plus however long we wait for them to actually be sickened, poisoned, what have you. And if we wait long enough for them to start starving out, again, we're looking 48 to 72 hours. This is me going back to Reckenbark Academy, like siege warfare. Yeah. If we're waiting that long, we're looking at 3 weeks at this point. It's too long.
All right. Well, you are the military mind of the group, so I will defer to your suggestions and directions. You've not got me killed yet. Until you do, I'll follow you.
Big Deal starts swinging his legs back and forth. You think that maybe he's like losing circulation from.
I'll kind of loosen up a little bit.
I'm going to say, okay, well, whatever you say, Gideon, and then I'm going to get my knife out like I'm about to gut. Big Deal. You're going to have to stop me or I'm going to stab him. I'm going to kill him if you don't stop me. I'm just telling you right now.
Oh, he's been such a good friend.
Okay. I'm going to put the knife back up.
And I'll set him down. So, do not send any further shipment to them.
No. And
if you are contacted, it's on the way. I don't know what happened. I sent it a few days ago.
He nods.
Be good to the daughters.
We plan to kill all of them. But if we fail, I will tell them you sent us.
His eyes get wide. He says... No need for that.
And I hope that your thoughts and prayers will be with our success.
You're going to do great. You've got that one with you. And he points at Azure and gives her like a nod. And she just, exhales like a little spark. Perfect. Well, Big Deal backs away. Like you could see that he doesn't want to turn his back on you, so he just shuffles his feet and walks backwards down the alley until he reaches the mouth of it, and then he turns and bolts.
So is it like an ironic nickname, Big Deal?
Yeah. This little dude. Big
shit.
Deal.
Well, you guys batted around a lot of ideas. I don't know that you've exactly landed on one yet, but I'm certain that the first thing on your mind is a long rest at this point.
Actually, first thing on my mind is making contact with our Reelish handler. So, and then long rest.
Yeah. You are outside of most of the typical mailing services of the Five Kingdom. But that being said, I think the Twilight Palace, being a joint venture of Fjarlin and Galanda, they would have a they have a house civis scribe stationed there, Talion. You might have taken note of him sleeping basically at his desk. Like there's like a concierge desk near like the check-in for the Twilight Palace, and there was an elderly gnomish scribe there sitting at a desk with the house civis mark on it. With your background in the house, you think a posting like this indicates one of maybe a few things. Either this guy was not well liked, or this guy made some real bad mistakes at some point in his career. But nonetheless, if you return to Fjarlin, you think you can relay a message to him. It might only be slightly delayed, I guess, going through the echo stations from here. So expect extra, it's like shipping a package during COVID times, or whatever. Just they'll take a few extra days to process.
There's a barge along the Breelish border.
Right, yeah. Yeah. There's a caravan just jackknifed in the Grey Wall Pass there, and it's just been ruining everything.
Cobalt's trying to fix it.
That being said, is there anything... are you just providing all of the details? Is there anything you're leaving out, or any specific thing you're trying to elicit in this message?
Things I would want to include: the location, to the best of our ability.
Oh, I'm gonna draw a little map.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna,
all right,
like,
even
work.
better.
Yeah.
The name of their leader, confirmed not associated with Daughter Sorakel. She's stealing from them, effectively, refusing tribute. 12 to 18 individuals in the camp, including potentially Zarla, a Medusa, and a hag, potentially. They have archery supplies, so presumably they like to attack at range. And the fact that we are going to advance on the camp and attempt to eliminate.
I'm gonna put it all in there, except I'm gonna totally forget to put that word "going" after them. Everything else made it, but like the end of it's like awaiting further instructions, as opposed to on our way, but awaiting further instructions.
Okay.
Yeah, awaiting further instructions might just be your like default signature.
Exactly.
That's how you
So,
sign
like,
off your email.
it's totally slipped my mind.
Please advise.
Totally not on purpose. My bad.
All right. You include a replica of the map because you're, an agent of the house or whatever. You can procure this service at no charge. You wake this guy as you guys are returning, kind of like late in the evening. He's still sleeping at his desk. You don't know if he's pulling a double, if he always sleeps at his desk. But you rouse him and relay your message. Are you sending this to? You know so many spies now. Or is this going to Codger back in Zalargo, or is this going to Kane, the most recent gentleman you met in Breland?
I don't remember who gave us the
Kane, technically, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna go to Kane then.
Okay. We'll assume that he.
But I'm gonna CC. I'm gonna CC Codger as well.
Sure. All right. Perfect.
Kind of on the DL, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, just
BCC.
FYI, leave it up to BCC. Exactly.
All right. You got these guys. You got these nations sharing intelligence. That's beautiful. Yes, and everything that Gideon has, of course, outlined is true. Excellent note-taking, Gideon. You were asked to accomplish at least 2 out of the 3. At this point, if you're going for the gold, this is the extra credit that a ghost mentioned earlier. You all are able to complete a long rest. As you return to the Twilight Palace, the evening performances are happening, but most of you are injured or, spent with magic otherwise. We come to the dawn of a new day, and at at this point, I'm happy to inform you all that you are advancing to 5th level. All to be better prepared for the whatever tact you decide to take here. So that being said, I can't remember. Did we roll for hit points or did we take averages last time?
I've been taking averages.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's what we did.
sure.
Oh.
So you can take the average. This is 5th level, so it'll be a big adjustment. Your proficiency bonus is going up, so that'll affect pretty much everything. Spellcasters, if you know what spell you were going to take, you can kind of note it now, or if you need to process all of that. And make sure, if you are taking the average of your hit die for your hit points, make sure you also add your constitution bonus as normal. So if you have a d6, you gain 4 plus your con mod. Yeah, right?
Yep.
Probably.
Correct.
I'm not great at math. So that being said, you guys have the privacy of your rooms. I'm assuming you guys have probably 2 or 3 rooms, depending on the sleeping arrangements or the sentry's rest arrangements for ghost purposes. But I think the debate continues about what the next course of action is.
Fireball.
Well, I mean, if you're learning Fireball, then I think that has to be plan A.
I mean, when you're a 5th level wizard, every problem looks like a fireball problem.
I would not probably object to that, frankly. If we're gonna,
I've not actually decided that yet, but it's certainly a high on the list. But we'll see what my options are. I like to do things a little bit more difficultly.
Oh, I get it. All right. What do you all do?
I don't know. Again, this is Gideon going back to, like, how do you set an ambush on an enemy camp? How do you, this, going back to Military Tactics Academy. That my thought would be get there a day or two before the shipment is supposed to arrive, reconnoiter the camp, start watching their patterns, like, when do they go hunting? When do they go for water? What are the watch routines? What do they keep an eye on? Is there a tent that everyone keeps protecting? That sort of thing. Wait a day or two until they're like, where's the shipment? Where is it supposed to be? Till they start running out of food or start running into their reserves. And then when tempers are at when they're hungry, when they're thirsty, when they're not well prepared, then we launch an attack at some point. Probably either at night or like at dawn or even at dusk.
You can also
About like 2:30 in the afternoon. They'll never see that coming.
Yeah.
They will see that coming because they have full visibility. That's
Oh,
the
When
point.
you're getting bored with your day, you're like thinking about a snack,
Yeah, I mean, when I was
Fireball.
at work, 2:30 is like it's almost 4. Can we just
Right.
get to the
I'm not getting
point?
anything else done today. This is
Yeah,
basically
I've just decided my day is over at this point.
yeah. Or you can have you can always employ Talion to do like the Noriega like treatment, right? Like what was that? What was the song? Noriega. You guys with me?
They blasted it over and over.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was it pre Britney Spears or was it?
No, it was. I want to say it was,
It was
Springsteen.
Panama, maybe. Was it Panama? I feel like maybe Panama.
Hang on, we have the vast repository of all human knowledge. Hang on.
Anyway, classic tactic of just going up to your enemy's gates and just blaring music at them nonstop.
I do have that megaphone thing now.
Would work. Not the megaphone, but the megaphone too.
Heavy metal, in fact. This is 1989,
Oh man, good year.
and included the U.S. military radio included "I Fought the Law" by The Clash, Hannibal by Van Halen, U2's All I Want Is You, and Bruce Cockburn's If I Had a Rocket Launcher.
I don't know that last one.
I don't either, but it was worth saying. Thank you, BBC.
If I had a rocket launcher.
I think Panama for like the first hour would be like, this is pretty good. But then after that, it would start to go downhill. Well, anyway, that's my suggestion.
That gets real bad real quick.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. I just thought we all had the same touchstone of Noriega. So now when anybody says Noriega, you guys are all up to speed. There we go.
We're on board.
Continue debating.
But yeah, that's my entirely functional, not at all fun plan. I'm open to suggestions.
I mean, we could always try to take out the hunting parties.
This is true too.
You know, take them out one or two at a time. And
Thin
then
the
dress like
numbers.
them and infiltrate the camp, because that's always fun.
That's not going to go over well. But that said, I mean, if we cut their numbers out from under them, they might grow suspicious that something's up, but if they can't trace it back to us...
Right. I mean, we think there's like 12 to 15. If we can take out 4 in a hunting party, that's pretty big, pretty good,
No, I like that idea. Especially if we're out on reconnoiter. That, oh, hey, let's follow these 3, ambush them.
I mean,
they're done.
It's not unusual to come across a wild fireball in the forest. Like, we can't be held responsible for that.
Living spells.
I was going to say, in Eberron that happens.
Yeah.
Accidents happen.
Yeah. Look at owlbears. I'm good to go. Just need to take a long rest and, gather myself. And I'm ready to go. I will fill them in on the things that I didn't fill them in on earlier, that this amber might be related to that spell mark that we saw, that, we also, if you remember correctly, it turned someone to stone, and we now have word that a Medusa is in the camp, so that very well could be connected as well.
I wonder if it's not something that just lets her project her ability.
Possibly.
Quite possibly. The only other metagame suggestion I would have is just to say a ghost, as I just looked because I wasn't sure if you were a sorcerer or a wizard. As a wizard, you're not confined to the spells that you get by leveling up. So you could always scour this city to see if there's a wizard or a scroll shop that would let you make use of a disguised self and add that to your repertoire. That might be the only reasonable way for one of you to pass off in a disguise. Or, I don't know. I guess that's a bard skill too, but you can always... Talian's taken a sudden interest in makeup, so he might be handy in making a disguise.
Get that disguise kit rolling.
Very, very true.
So are we taking the plan of going out into the somewhat desertish Badlands, basically, to kind of recon the place? Or do we want to table this and debate it until next session, or what's the plan?
If everyone's okay with that, I'm good to keep going, but if there are other ideas, I'm willing to listen.
I think that
you're the military expert, so
I was going to say, at the end of the day, I think we're all going to just acknowledge that you have the experience and we have a unique set of skills. So whatever you'd like to do, I think we're all on board eventually. After
Maybe
some
18
discussion,
team.
we're still all on board.
And Gideon, you had mentioned you might still take the big deal. You might still take Big Deal up on his offer of a cart. Are you still going to try and take the cart, or are you just going to head out on foot?
If he's willing to part ways with a cart simply for ease of travel for us, sure.
Okay.
I would probably want to, I don't want to say ditch it, but ditch it a day or two out of the camp.
Yeah. that seems logical.
That way we don't, like, hey, what's this big cart doing here?
Right. Hey, why did Big Deal suddenly stop? All right, perfect. So you complete a long rest. You guys can, like I said, process and finalize all the details of your level up. You head back the next day, not knowing anywhere better to find him to torch scales. And as soon as you guys kind of duck into the place, there's no doorman anymore. But as soon as you guys duck into the place, you hear a couple of kobolds immediately scream and shout and scurry around. But Big Deal, he's kind of got like a single ice cube wrapped up and held over his head. He immediately just kind of calls for everyone to chill out and to go back to... They're just like cleaning up the place, sweeping up broken glass with tiny like toothbrush-sized brooms and things of that nature. You guys gingerly pick your way through the debris. He pulls out another post-it sized piece of parchment and kind of begins scribbling down some details. And he calls to some of his people who exit the establishment. Unless there's anything you have specifically more to say to Big Deal, you hear kind of the clopping of hooves a short while later. It seems like the cart is... I mean... It's... Maybe a cart isn't the best choice of words. It is like a carriage or a wagon. It has an enclosed space. You might be able to fit a ghost and Talion inside of it at the same time, but not like all three of you.
I'm proficient in land vehicles.
Perfect. Well, yeah, and that being said, it's not a kobold-sized cart because that would just be silly for a merchant operation. It's size for medium humanoids, I would say, but it's more designed for cargo and like lay flats and things like that. So it's not spacious like passenger. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely, Gideon, you can avail yourself of the driver's seat. Gideon, are you trained in animal handling by any chance?
I am not.
Okay. But you're proficient in land vehicles, so go ahead and make an intelligence land vehicles proficiency check. Just looking this over.
No, come on, dice.
Let's say it's wisdom.
I like wisdom better. That's fine by me. That is a 12.
Perfect. You kick the wagon wheels. They seem fine. You check to make sure they're tightened and everything.
Before we leave, I want to stop by that cookhouse.
One of the grist mills, perhaps.
Yeah.
Partaking in the socialized food.
Do they have any used oil?
Okay.
Like from frying?
I love, there's almost certainly a market in this town where you could buy oil, but you want spent cooking oil. This is great. Okay. You look over the cart, everything looks fine. The one thing I was going to say is the horse looks a little shabby, but you think like it's just one of his older horses. You think it doesn't. What it says to you is that he doesn't have a lot of confidence that you will be returning. So he's not giving you his best cart and his best horse. But you put a pin in that and you stride off towards the grist mill, which isn't too far from torch scales. You do get a weird look because you're outside of the calabash, which is pretty much where tourists are supposed to stay. But it's not illegal for you to be here. It's just strange. A couple of the kobold line chefs who are pouring out like very suspicious smelling stew to the food line. We'll say you're here for like the brunch crowd, so there's not a big line. The goblins kind of look at each other and then they look up at you and they say, "What's it to you? You some sort of health inspector?"
Just looking to take some things off your hands. I can make it worth your while. And I'll flash gold, like 5 gold.
Okay. One of them reaches out to take the coins from you. The other one ducks back into the kitchen, and he comes back with like a rusty, dented pot with like a lid on it, and you could hear it kind of sloshing around.
You got more of these?
You got more of these? And he holds up the gold coin.
How much? How much will I get for? Let's call it 50.
15, 1-5?
1-5.
Okay. He goes 5 gold for 1. 4.
You know as well as I that this is worth much less than 5 gold. Give me as much as you can.
So between these two chefs, they scurry back and forth, taking a couple of trips each, and they come back to you with 4 pots that are all roughly the same size. I don't know what's a good size for a pot. Like these are like army encampment style, so they're probably like several gallons each or whatever.
Awesome.
But yeah. Is that stuff gonna congeal? I don't. I don't really know how. I don't know how that's gonna keep. I'm not much of a chef, but you're able to kind of, I would assume, pull the cart up outside the grist mill and make a couple of trips. This isn't something Talion could lift all that easily, but a ghost or Azure could help you. And you load your 4 large pots full of cooking oil into the back of the wagon. I'd say there's like some like kind of fraying rope harnesses that you can kind of tie them to the side so they don't spill over.
Okay. Good to know.
So now, riding inside that cart is even more unpleasant. It just smells like Crisco mixed with rotting meat or something.
Fortunately, I don't.
Well,
smell.
if we have them on the strapped to the outside.
Oh, sure. You
I don't have to. I don't have any nose. So
Oh yeah, you don't smell. And I'm driving. I'm on the outside.
Yeah. So it's just Tally, and we have to worry about.
I don't have to worry about me. I can. Well, you could probably worry about me quite a bit, actually.
We do worry about you quite often.
So which route will you be pursuing? I mean, you have the cart, so in theory, the route that he would normally take is 2 days west and then 6 days north or whatever, but you could depart the road pretty much immediately after leaving the town and maybe shave a couple of days off.
We're still ahead of schedule for what the shipment's supposed to be, so I don't have a problem taking the actual road. Plus, it makes us seem less conspicuous.
Okay. I would also say for the members of the party that do eat, let's see here, 6 days, 3 silver pieces. I would say as a party, you guys probably have to scrape up about 12 gold just to make sure that you have enough food and water for this trek. So I don't know if Gideon's going to front all that.
15 plus 12 is my 27.
Oh, hey, look at that. And you're still up 5 silver from the other day's work. Perfect. All right. So you pull the cart around to the market. You're able to procure rations that aren't sourced from the grist mill. You get simple food that'll kind of keep on the road journey. You get a couple of barrels of water. These lands are like arid once you depart the city, which I guess we should focus on that for a moment. You take the cart. You're headed outside the city, unless a ghost or Talion. Did you have anything else you needed to do before you left? Okay. You show the document that was filled out, and kind of looking over what Big Deal handed you. It is like slightly officious. It has the seal of the city, the badge that you've seen, kind of the militia here wearing, and some of the banners you've seen. It's like a small, it's like a shield with an upraised or it's a shield with an upraised fist over like a field of roses with like an eye in the background. And you can see that it lists what you imagine must be Big Deal's proper name. It looks like a couple of draconic scribbles. And it has just, it lists a cart, and then it just lists like some very basic sundry items. Kind of, pretty much just kind of mirroring what you filled it with so far. I mean, maybe with the exception of 4 pots of cooking oil, but you don't know that customs is necessarily going to care about that. So by the time you reach the western gate of town, there is an ogre kind of overseeing the individuals exiting. And there's, since you're approaching kind of the late morning time at this point, there are a number of trade caravans exiting here. The ogre is kind of keeping a watch over a couple of hobgoblin and orc guards. And they seem to take a look at the papers that are being provided, quickly glance over the contents of the cart, ask a few questions, and then wave these people through. But when you come up in line, I mean, you are all outlanders. The ogre kind of narrows his eyes and looks at the lot of you, and then he holds out his giant hand to take this tiny post-it sized piece of paper away from you. He holds it up to his face, and then he just shakes his head and hands it down to one of the hobgoblins to look at. But you can see that they're looking your card over suspiciously, and the ogre, he probably just fixes his gaze on you, Gideon, and just kind of stares you down, almost maybe challenging you to speak first, or maybe just waiting to see if you will, just so he can.
I'll look him up and down. Does he have any insignia that would represent he's been a mercenary with anyone that I might recognize, or part of a fighting company outside of gate guard at Greywall?
Yeah, actually, make a, well, no need to make a check. He's wearing the badge that kind of marks him as an authority here in the city, but looking him over, you do see, House Deneth usually hires a lot of mercenaries, but they don't really have the best relations with Droam. But you can see instead, because House Deneth doesn't do a lot of trade here, you see a burned symbol that looks like an uppercase T, and you've known that some of the people who do contract work for House Tharash actually get this brand, because House Tharash is a more orcish based house. They have better relations when it comes to getting mercenary contracts from the people of Drome. So yeah, he's done some mercenary work as far as you can tell.
Okay. I'm presuming, I know I'm not proficient in Orcish and the like, but I know maybe enough phrases to be something "You spilled good blood today," or something like that.
That's racist. Ogres,
okay.
ogres don't speak Orcish. Ogres speak like giants.
But if he's worked with a bunch of orcs, he probably speaks Orcish.
Okay, that's not racist. That's smart. The opposite of racist. Okay. Yeah, I mean, with your time in the companies of Dargoon, you've learned some of those basic kind of phrases. He basically pats the blade at his side, and he says something to the effect, "You've always understood this phrase to mean my sword sings your praises," which is just a kindness in return. And he gives you a nod. But then he just kind of... Okay.
I admire his probably oversized, massive, good choice.
Yeah. Yeah, it would easily be a great sword for you, but it's probably just a long sword for him. But at this point, he just kind of bellows out to "Outlanders, headed for the crag. This doesn't happen very often. What business do you have out in our lands?"
Exploration. Seek out new New lands.
New
Strange new
civilizations.
world.
Yeah.
Kill them.
Adventurers.
Imperialism. No. No, not saying that.
And he says, adventurers, yes, well, we do better without your lot here underfoot. Try your luck out there. You seem perhaps strong enough to endure. And your little friend here will be easy enough to carry his corpse.
I'm gonna jump up at that point in time and unsling my viola.
I
viol.
jokingly
Start
in
playing
Orcish,
it. And I'm gonna
he's
say,
not big enough to eat.
I'm trying to talk over you at the same time, like we're saying the same. We're talking simultaneously, and I'm like, I am but a mere bard, looking for the experience. I have songs to write, epic poems to compose, and I'd like to think that I'm still talking as we walk away.
Yeah, I think the ogre is like listening to you. Like he looks down at Gideon and just gives you a little bit of a nod. So you, yeah! And as the horses start up, it knocks Talion off balance. So you fall on your butt, but even as you lose that moment of concentration, your hands don't falter. So you just go down, still just kind of like sawing on the viol or whatever.
Yeah, and it's the most gorgeous music anybody's ever heard, including myself. I'm amazed at my own ability.
I know we're not smuggling anything, but if we were, putting it in the bottom of those grease pots probably would have been a good place to put it, because I don't think they wanted to look in there. I say as we're leaving.
Loud enough for them to hear, right?
Loud enough for them to hear.
We see the ogre just kind of like look over his shoulder at you all and like shake his head as like the camera just like irises down. But you all make your way through these gates, taking the 2 days along the trade road that the prescribed route kind of justifies. You see what must have been the black smudge on the map. About 2 days travel. And you don't see a lot of traffic on this trade road going in either direction, but every like 15 miles or so, basically, you see every 15 to 30 miles, you see what would be like the equivalent of like a roadside campsite. Like you can see a stone circle piled up, and just a lot of trampled down earth and things where people have obviously pulled off to camp here before. But by the time you are in that second day of travel, you see this large, maybe like, larger than Gideon, and maybe twice as wide, basically. Black glass-looking volcanic rock that just kind of stands here, maybe as some sort of way marker, maybe as some sort of tribute. It doesn't really have any like carvings or anything on it. Actually, there's been some carvings added to it, but judging from their placement, it looks like they're more graffiti than anything else. And most of them are in Dwarven runes in the Goblin alphabet and things like that. So it doesn't immediately strike you as anything, anything particularly wise or anything like that. It's the equivalent of like bathroom graffiti, I guess. I don't know. But that being said, this is the part where Big Deal's caravan would depart the road and kind of lazily follow it to the northwest. After this, you can see that there are just a number of kind of rough landmarks drawn on. Like I said, a copse of like 3 standing trees with some birds circling over it. You are relieved to see that in your next day or so of travel, you do see this landmark. And they do seem like normal birds. I mean, from the drawing, you couldn't really tell. But they don't appear to be harpies or anything. They just look to be some, like, vultures maybe or something circling over, like, a dried-up oasis, essentially. After another day of travel, and at this point, you're sleeping maybe a little bit rougher. Is anybody in the party actually... Gideon, with your military background, I'm sure you're used to camping in the field or whatever, but does anybody actually have survival in this group? Survival. So this is probably the roughest you guys, particularly Italian and a ghost, the roughest you guys have slept since you all have started adventuring together. I mean, at least in a long time. For the most part,
I don't sleep. So.
Well, okay. You see Talion toss and turn at night. In particular, like... Actually, yeah, keeping a sentry's rest. Talion... I mean, do you even own a bedroll? Do you just... You're probably a pretty sheltered kid. You guys have been traveling through civilized lands, so none of this has ever really come up. But I would say a ghost, one of the weird things you notice about Talion when he sleeps, he's taken to drumming his fingers, which is something you've never noticed before. Like just a weird nervous tick to pick up, but maybe it's the stress of the hard road that you guys are on.
I will try to sing him a lullaby at
night. That doesn't really help if there's no water.
What's that?
Go to sleep. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just said I do have soap.
I'm gonna sing lullabies at night to try to help him get eased into dreamland.
Gideon, you have to chastise Talion to not use your guys' drinking water, basically, to freshen up. He sleeps in the dirt and then he's all pissy about it the next day. But no, I mean, honestly, you guys have been camping in inns and traveling by lightning rails and everything, so this is the most wilderness you guys have seen probably in the last month or so that you've been traveling. That being said, throughout the course of the fourth day of travel, off to the far west, you see what must have been the mark indicating that, like, castle structure. Gideon, to your eye, it looks like a fort. And all of you can't miss the dots of figures on the horizon flying. It looks like there are many flying creatures or perhaps individuals flitting about this place from one tower to the other, and then heading off in differing directions, maybe on patrols, maybe hunting. None of them are particularly flying out in your direction. You imagine maybe you're visible to them at this distance, but maybe they're disinterested, or maybe they... I don't know. Nothing seems to come of it. So by your estimation, you are about 2 days of travel outside of the Fang's encampment. So it is at this point that you would maybe feel the need to travel at a slower pace and maybe look for, what little elevation there is kind of out here in these flatlands to kind of break up sight lines and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, is like try to find ways to stay undercover and out of sight of someone who might be observing from above.
Seems fair. So to that end, why don't the three of you make stealth checks for me?
Oh.
Oh.
3 total?
Well, it's disadvantage because of heavy armor, correct?
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, but arguably it's not about making sound or anything, so maybe just one more straight roll.
Alright.
It's more about
I'll take it.
Using the terrain.
Right. 12.
Much better. A ghost?
15.
Italian?
8.
You still playing the violin?
I'm playing too much. Yeah, I'm playing the violin too much. Periodically, Gideon tries to get me to stop, and I do, but it doesn't stick.
Yeah, it just keeps creeping back out. You do manage to play it softly. You're like palm muting it, but you're still like, you're plucking the strings and whatnot. You do kind of focus, like, as you said, on using the terrain to your advantage. It's kind of sparse shrubbery, some rolling hills here and there. Traveling at this slow of a pace to move stealthily, are you just going to try and leave the cart behind? Leave the horse behind? I
I figured on if we're like a day or so away from the. Okay, so my original plan was if we're a day or so away from where we think the camp is, leave the cart there. But we also have this, cooking grease that I'm intending on totally lighting their camp on fire. So if we can stash the cart somewhere, like where we could access it so that when we're ready to strike, we can go back and get it, I'm okay leaving the horse go, provided that we can have the cart relatively close enough by and hidden that we can. I'm picturing the scene from the '90s Three Musketeers movie where they soak the Cardinal's carriage in brandy, light it on fire, and throw it into the gunpowder stock.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Or you just need a Holocaust coat. Holocaust cloak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Holocaust.
So I would say, let's say this. After about 5 days of this travel, and a ghost, this probably isn't wearing on you. You don't sleep. This is just another fun adventure. You've seen tumbleweeds, which is something you've only read about before.
Cool.
Like I said, it's not exactly a desert, but it's like vaguely desert-ish. You kind of get the impression that, when Droam declared that it wanted to be a nation, part of the reason that Breland kind of begrudgingly accepted it is there's not a lot of worth out here. This isn't very good farmland. But Talion, this is maybe starting to wear on you a little bit. But that being said, after about 5.5 days of travel, you get to a point where you're approaching from a vector that seems to have a little more change in elevation. You could see, like, off in the distance in several places, these kind of, like, craggy rocks and, like, larger, like, big bumper rocks and things like that. After about 5.25 days travel, you get to a point where you just tell Azure to hold up with the cart and keep an eye on things. And you guys are just going to scout ahead for a couple of hours where you can maybe get a visual on it, judging on Talion's recreation of the map. And then you'll be able to come back and make camp with her. That way you have all of these elements.
Okay. Spitting.
Yeah. So you leave Azure behind to tend the cart and the horse. You guys pick off, hiking over these kind of rolling dunes, for lack of a better term. And by...
I think I'll be left behind too, right? I mean, like, I'm not going to go hiking when I could be hanging out with the horse and the
That's
cart.
true. I presume too much. Yeah, you're right. This is also the perfect time for you to get at that water you've been trying to get at. As soon as Gideon turns his back.
If Azure gets caught, she at least looks in place here. If you get caught, you're food.
I'm such a small man. I don't know that I want to go hiking. All right, fine. I'm going to go with y'all, I guess. Yeah.
Your shoes are ruined.
Strength in numbers.
So you pick over the hills here, and by the late part of the afternoon, there's still enough light to kind of see by. And this is the part of dungeon mastering where I'm not super great. Like, it's sight lines and a relatively flat land with desert. I don't know how far out is reasonable for you to be, but you are that reasonable distance away where you can see details. Because of your stealth rolls, you don't see any immediate reaction to you guys kind of peering over from your vantage point, but you see a ghost, a very familiar sight to you, although from a slightly different perspective. The ghost, you had seen this kind of from a bird's eye view in your vision or dream or whatever you've decided to term it. But it is this lonely, kind of desolate rock in the middle of a flat land. Gideon, kind of surveying the area between you and them, there are like very sparse shrubs kind of spread out over a great distance. Moving in stealthily without some sort of arcane assistance or maybe some distraction would probably prove pretty difficult.
That's good. Well, we have plenty of arcane distraction.
Sure enough. You guys are able to kind of sit down here and observe. I know my voice keeps cracking today. for several hours to kind of get an idea of its defenses and the schedules of these people.
Is the wind blowing like? I mean, I like to think that Talion is still totally distracted by his living hands, and so like even as we're like checking out this camp, I'm like occasionally trying to get the viol out and play it a little bit.
You hear the faint plinking of strings. The wind is moving, let's say, from the east to the west. You're approaching from the south, so it's not going to carry necessarily, but
Excellent. I mean, I like to think that Gideon also slaps me occasionally to try and keep it down, but
yeah,
I want to play.
I mean, you could also play this off as a bardic inspiration for an upcoming perception or investigation check.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So to that end, actually, somebody want to make a perception or an investigation, or have any specific questions about what you're observing?
I can perceive things.
Color your details. Are you granting a bardic inspiration, Talion?
Actually, I'm gonna be even dumber. It's I'm casting aid as I'm doing it, so everybody's getting 5 extra points, 5 extra hit points.
Nice.
Your max is up by 5, and you get those 5 too. So, congratulations! You have a little bit of extra points for a little bit of time. But you probably won't need. Hopefully, you don't need. But it doesn't help you with any other wing. No. Yeah, it's totally it's one of those deals where like, I think I'm doing something good. I'm totally not, and yeah. But yes, let's do that.
Yeah, you strike the wrong chord, basically. Like casting using an instrument hasn't necessarily been your forte. You're more of an orator, so you think you're playing the chord that helps him focus, and really he just like feels.
I'm really just wasting a spell slot.
A 21 total perception.
21, yes.
That's very good.
16 plus 3 proficiency plus 2 wisdom.
Wow, perfect. So I'll spell out some details for you all, and then you can ask your questions or make your further investigations here. But over the course of the period that you're watching, like I said, you arrive in the late afternoon and kind of keep watch into the early evening, knowing that you kind of have to hike back to meet up with Azure again. What looks like a hunting party does return. The 2 figures walking, you can't really make out details at this distance, but they look to you to be medium-sized humanoids of some stripe. So orc, hobgoblin, gnoll, the details are a little sparse. But the 2 of them are accompanied with 1 flying figure. A slender silhouette, so, not like a large bird, maybe like with a 21 perception, I would say your mind kind of goes to the figures you saw in the skies over Greywall. You think that might be a harpy that's with them.
Okay.
They're returning from some sort of excursion off to the west. So you see them kind of walking across the distance for a while, headed back to, Sweet Rock, basically. They enter into a small cleft at the base of the rock on the southern side. So after they kind of head inside, you can see it. So you're approaching from where at least one entrance is. And you don't see any other activity that really suggests that there are other entrances or exits like on the ground floor. Like you don't see any unexpected traffic coming around from behind the building or anything like that. I would say the only other exit points that kind of become obvious to you, especially with a 21, about halfway up the rock, and you're estimating that it's maybe as tall as like 30 feet or so. There's like a small shelf, basically, about 20 feet up on the one side of it to the southeast. And then you imagine there must be tunnels within the rock that lead up to... The rock has just basically like a sheer flat top. So think like a less green version of like Weathertop, basically.
Okay.
But
so there's a front door and a top door.
yeah, so about 30 feet up, you imagine there must be access to that roof, because you haven't seen anybody climbing the rock, but you do see two figures posted there during the day, and it looks like as you guys are progressing into the evening, they're relieved and replaced by two other figures. You see like a small amount of smoke kind of coming out of the front entrance that suggests to you like campfire or cooking fire of some sort, during the day at least. And aside from those three figures, including the harpy, forming kind of like that hunting or scouting party or whatever, and the two figures that dot the top, you don't really see any others. I mean, knowing that those two figures were relieved, that makes at least 7 in their complement. But you don't see anybody else egress or ingress or any sign of beasts of burden or anything like that.
Interesting.
It'll be beast.
How hard a climb would it be to get up on top?
Even with a 21 at this distance, you'd be hard pressed to say if there's like an abundance of handholds or footholds. But the rock is, it's like craggy, and as far as you can tell, it doesn't look like it's been like worn smooth by like the passage of like wind or water or anything over time.
Yeah.
So just kind of judging by like the several kind of faces of it that kind of jut around and just like the rough composition of it, probably not too difficult.
A ghost. Could you collapse that tunnel?
Possibly. It would not be easy, but probably given enough time.
Well, my thought is you have that spell you used in the Kobold Bar, the Thunder Wave.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be capable of collapsing that, or at least preventing them from using the top exit for a time?
All I can say is possibly. I've never used it in that way, so theoretically it could work, but I can't say for sure.
My thinking currently is if we could get you and possibly either Azure or Talion up on top of there and collapse that exit, we could then light the cart on fire with the grease and push it in the main entrance and smoke them out.
I just think that's going to be very difficult for us to get into position without being seen. Like, I think it's a good idea if we could like just appear up there, but I don't have that ability yet.
Let's do it. I'm game.
I'm open
how
to other
tall is
suggestions.
this thing? Like from the ground to the top of the top roof level?
About 30 feet or so. Maybe, about 3 stories internally. And
Right, now let me correct myself. I do have the ability to just appear up there with Misty Step because it's 30 feet range.
Well, there you go.
perfect.
Okay.
So, I mean, Pythagoras theorem, you'd have to be still, pretty close to it.
I mean,
or
I would
at the
hold
base
out
of
my
it.
hands like this, and then cast it, and then I'd appear holding on, and then pull myself up.
Yeah. That being said, there is like a shelf or a plateau of some sort that's only about 20 feet up on the one corner of the rock. You don't know if that's just a natural formation of the rock or some sort of balcony or porch.
So if
I
I
guess-
can get next to it unobserved, I can get on top of it.
I guess this is again military academy coming through for Gideon. What spell resources do we have at our disposal? I know you have Thunderwave. I know you have invisibility, Talion. I know witch bolts have been thrown around, but beyond that, I don't know what you have packing in terms of artillery.
Again, I just got some new spells that I technically haven't chosen yet, so I can't say for sure about that. But
Yeah, I was wondering, do you get 2 or do you just get 1? You might get 2, right?
I think I get 2, but I have to double check.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you get-
that's Fly and Fireball, like
Yeah.
both of which have use cases in this scenario, but you can always
Sure.
Yeah,
decide.
I could also
Yeah.
take one
Yeah,
of those
I-
vats of grease, Misty step up there, pour it down the hole, and then cast Fireball inside.
That works well too.
The way Shatter's worded, it's going to be just towards creatures, is what it looks like.
I thought Shatter does a ton of damage against like inanimate objects, like stone walls.
A creature made of inorganic material has disadvantage, but it doesn't say anything about.
Well,
I'm gonna rule that it applies to objects too. That only makes sense. I mean, I think
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna say it
Non-
applies to non-magical objects, just for,
Right,
for future
non-magical.
reference.
Yep. I don't know if it'd do enough damage, but I thought about picking it anyway.
Yeah, like I think rules as written, you can't use Eldritch Blast to target an object either, but that's just kind of silly. So
I mean, it's a 10-foot radius sphere, so I have to be up there first.
yeah, but my thinking with that sort of thing is just if we can collapse the top exit, we're effectively limiting their flying. You know, their harpies or whatever else is flying to being stuck fighting in a tunnel.
The best. I mean, I like that, and I like the idea of using Shatter. And like I said, I was already looking at learning it, so I could probably do it pretty easily. But I would think the best way to use it would be to try and actually get the rolling cart first and cast it in such a way that it's not only attacking, not only hurting, not only what's it called, aimed at the rock that's up there, but actually is doing damage potentially to those
I'll be
creatures
honest.
as well.
I'm not even worried about dealing direct damage to them. If we can light their home on fire, they're not getting out. Because they're going to have to go through me and probably Azure, and then you guys once you're down from the tunnel. And a flaming cart full of oil, which is lighting all their possessions on fire.
So I
This
guess my
sounds
suggestion at this
incredibly
point would be, since
evil.
it's 10:30 anyways, why don't we call it here? That'll give everybody, Julie included, a chance to pick our spells, choose our new loadouts,
Yeah,
and
man.
then that way, because I personally don't want to take Fireball and Fly just because it would work great
no,
here.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
no, that's
I might, but I would rather make that choice and then apply whatever we have here. I think that
No,
makes the most
yeah,
sense.
absolutely.
that
That only makes
yeah.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest the same here in just a moment. So you guys, take a look at this. You start scribbling in the dirt and kind of arguing amongst yourselves a little bit in hushed tones, and then eventually you just kind of you kick the sand back over it and decide to pick back over the hills here as quietly as possible to reconnect with Azure.
Yep.
Everything seems copacetic here. You can make an evening's camp probably don't want to set a fire this close to the.
Nope.
So it's going to be a cold night in a
Hardtack and jerky tonight.
It's a cold night.
Don't
in
give
a desolate
Talion any
desert.
ideas.
Italian's gonna, as soon as everybody's bedded down, and because Italian's gonna have a hard time sleeping, right? Because I've already had a hard time sleeping.
Right.
So once it gets like super cold, I'm gonna like totally sneak into Gideon's bedcloth because I just really need the warmth.
Yeah, you wake up in the middle of the night and the living gloves are like so tight that they're like cutting off your circulation. They're like contracting due to the cold. Or for the other fellowship reference of the night, like you're gonna wake up in the middle of the night and Talion's like cooking, like he's got bacon over.
Like kick over the fire. And...
Would you like some tomatoes?
Precisely. But no, so you guys are able to rest here, finalize the arcane research and the bardic practice that you need to learn your new spells, and then you all can debate the merits of how you want to approach this. And then it seems like maybe next session we will deal with the fangs one way or the other.
Alrighty.
So, GG everyone. Good job. 5th level, go ahead and apply all those changes before next time. Andy, if you want to let Jules know the good news.
Not a problem.
I know you were 4th for so long.
I mean, it's been like a year, but it's actually only been like
I know.
15 hours of gameplay.
It's also that feeling of, oh man, I'm one level away from actually getting 2 attacks.
Yeah, well, I figured if you guys might face a Medusa, you might want to be a slightly higher level. So, cool. Well, I have been your DM this evening, as usual. My name is Ralph. I'm at Cthulhu on Twitter. I'm joined by Andy playing Gideon Blacklake at Blackfall Press, Michael playing a ghost at the RPG Academy, and Alan playing Talion Tildavande at Big Al the Lawyer. His drink runneth empty, so it is time to end the night. Good game, guys. I'll see you all in a couple of weeks.